protest from Weerasinghe to Panadura. Kothalavala Defence University Bill is a fatal blow to free education, a statement from the opposition leader. Interprovincial bus and train services recommence in limited numbers. Delay in compensation over Express Pearl disaster causes chaos in Ceylon.
Now those stories in detail. Members of the Kalutara District Teachers Association took to the streets today in solidarity with their colleagues who were arrested, released on bail and subsequently directed to quarantine. Members of the Sisujana movement for free education were arrested, released on bail and sent for quarantine recently during a protest on charges of breaching quarantine regulations.
The protest commenced from Weerasinghe this morning.
Immediately release all activists, including Joseph Stalin. Do not interfere with the movement towards winning over teachers' rights. Revoke the Kothalavala bill, which is a threat to free education. Dilu Mamunugama and Keheli Ramukwala call us names and condemn our struggles. We would like to say no more online. Formulate a different framework for the children of the nation to pursue their education. Till then, we will not abandon this struggle.
Our cameras captured the manner in which protesters who arrived in vehicles at the Kalutara town expressed dissent over the matter.
We will not allow the government to progress by sidelining us. Revoke this immediately and release our leader immediately. We have in our hands the education of future generations. You cannot suppress trade unions and our leaders.
Subsequently, the protest travelled in a motorcade along the Gaul Road and reached the Panadura town.
A process must be in place if there is any sort of affection towards children. But no such process has been introduced for schools. The general public, particularly parents, must bear in mind that it was the teachers who commenced online classes voluntarily. Teachers who earn a pittance, obtained loans, bought a phone or a tab and dedicated themselves to this process. This is the fate which has befallen teachers. We can argue and prove who the scoundrels are, even against the backdrop where certain processes could have been implemented to carry out academic activities in a COVID environment. Those at the Ministry of Education, including the Minister of Cabinet who sits with Keheli Ramukwala, did nothing.
The online strike launched by principals and teachers continued for the third consecutive day today. The trade union action was launched on the 12th of this month, opposing the move to subject arrested protesters to undergo quarantine after being granted bail by court.
On the 8th of this month, police took steps to arrest a group of protesters who were present at a demonstration organised by the Sisujana movement for freedom education on charges of breaching quarantine regulations. Thereafter, they were produced before courts where bail was granted. However, the authorities directed the group to undergo quarantine. Teachers' unions alleged the move was made without subjecting the group to PCR tests. In a bid to oppose this move, the teachers and principals stepped away from conducting online classes, and it has been 3 days since students island-wide were deprived of the opportunity to pursue their education online against a COVID-19 stricken backdrop.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa said the proposed Kothalavala Defence University Act is a deadly blow to free education. The opposition leader issued a statement in this regard following a meeting with the members of the Inter-University Students' Federation.
Opposition leader pointed out he condones prioritizing the strengthening of the General Sir John Kothalavala Defence University in order to preserve and promote national security. However, he condemns attempts made to initiate this process while destroying the structure of free education, deviating from due process.
We discussed the Kothalavala bill. This is a bill which could greatly disrupt free education and a bill promoting privatization of education. It also promotes militarization of education. As the IUSF, we created a general awareness of this bill today.
As a party, we oppose any threat to free education and also the suppression of students. Discussions regarding the adverse impact of that suppression and moves towards the destruction of free education were held.
Students face numerous difficulties in finding mobile coverage in pursuit of online education. They climb onto trees and mountains and walk along riverbanks and paddy fields. Students from Nawagatte Gama, Amanuvava and Galkulama villages are victims of this issue.
The students from Galkulama village undergo insurmountable hardships due to the lack of mobile coverage. The villagers are severely impacted economically and cannot even make ends meet, let alone purchase a mobile phone. School students and university students alike have to climb atop tall structures and trees in search of mobile phone signal.
We have lectures on all 5 days of the week. They start at 8 in the morning and finish at 5 in the evening. When we find a place with coverage in the morning, we have no choice but to stay there till evening. That is the reality of remote learning.
දුරස්ථ අධ්‍යාපන ක්‍රමවේදය ඔස්සේ තමා අපට අධ්‍යාපන කටයුතු සිද්ධ කරන්න වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් අපිට සිග්නල් මදි මේ දවස්වල. මම කියන්නේ
Please provide us with online facilities and the opportunity to engage in studies. Otherwise, open schools and at least let us go to school.
කරලා පාසල් යාමට හරි අවස්ථාව ලබා දෙන්න කියලා තමයි මම කියන්නේ. අපිට උවමනාව තියෙන
The problem of coverage is a serious matter. We cannot be taking our girls to mountains and fields. That leaves us with no source of income. We are farmers.
මේ හම්බ කරගන්න විදිහක් නැහැ නේ අපි ගොවිතැන් කරන කට්ටියනේ ඉතින්.
අකුරු කරන්න සිග්නල් හොයන ළමුන්ට ඔන්ලයින් වෙහෙස නිවන ඔන් එයා පාඩම් මාලාව ගම්මැද්ද තක්සලාව සාමාන්‍ය පෙළ පහ ශිෂ්‍යත්ව පාඩම් සිංහල වගේම දෙමළ බසින් TV1 හා ශක්ති TV ඔස්සේ ඔබට පිළිගන්වන්නේ සතුටින්.
Meanwhile, protests were organized in various parts of the island today demanding a solution to the fertilizer crisis. These are the farmers of Mahathanna in Valimada.
This is a protest organized by the Janata Vimukti Peramuna in Mahathanna Valimada. Farmers demanded the government to provide required fertilizer for their crops.
How are we supposed to go on living? We cannot even afford to put 3 meals on the table. We do not need free fertilizer. We will use what we have to pay for it. Our children are hungry. There is nothing left to do except consume poison. Is this what you call life?
Farmers of the Rakawul agrarian cantonment in Polpitigama held a protest in their fields, urging authorities to rectify their fertilizer shortage. The national organizer of the All Ceylon Agrarian Federation, Namal Karunaratna, was also present at the protest.
The farming community is helpless today. Without providing proper solutions to the sorrows and pleas of these farmers, the government is following a technique of suppressing these farmers. If the government provided fertilizer stocks, educated the farmers on ways to control weeds and pests that are harming their cultivation and pay compensation, farmers wouldn't have taken to the streets. The government is responsible for these protests. You cannot swindle us this time using your silly tricks.
Now, allegations have been raised over fishing communities in Ceylon not being compensated for the losses caused due to the Express Pearl disaster. We kindly request Minister Rohit Abe Gunawardena to not to take this matter lightly. You do not understand the might of Ceylon. This is why you speak this way. We will present a map of Sri Lanka. This is Ceylon. This is Nigambu, and here is Panadura. Look at the distance. The northwestern monsoon is active these days. All the debris will wash ashore in Ceylon. How can he claim we were not affected? We sent WhatsApp messages to all the relevant institutions, compensation committees, the Department of Fisheries. We have all the details. How can they make such a claim? We called because ministers have said we did not notify them. These are the details we have forwarded. How can anyone claim we have not done so? These documents include recommendations made by multiple fisheries organizations. The State Minister says he does not know. How can he say that? Do not act like a child. Samagi Jana Balawegaya parliamentarian Partly Champika Ranawaka alleges portions of the Kerawalapitiya power plant have been handed over to a US-based firm without a tender process. The parliamentarian made this revelation at a media briefing held this morning.
40% of the state-owned Kerawalapitiya power plant has been sold to a US-based firm. Not only that, against a backdrop where 2 tenders have been called to provide LNG, the same company had been provided a monopoly by handing over that deal for 5 years. We seriously condemn that move. The Minister of Energy and the Finance Minister must face the nation and make clear their intention for overriding the tender process of the nation in this way. This is a clear betrayal of the country's energy sector to foreign nations. They must issue a clarification on this. Those who were vociferous over American military boots on Sri Lankan soil are now silent. Why is that?
Meanwhile, retired Major General Ananda has been appointed as the chairman of the Urban Development Authority.
Previously retired Major General Udayananayakkara served as the Director General of the Urban Settlement Development Authority. He also served as the Project Director of the Akuragoda Defence Headquarters and as the Chief Field Engineer of the Sri Lanka Army. He was also the former military spokesperson between 2006 and 2009.
A group of trade union activists lodged a complaint with the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka yesterday. According to the union activists, the government has limited opportunities for graduates in the field of agriculture to access state jobs.
The Development Officers Association alleged graduates in agri-science and science streams have been stripped of the opportunity to apply for a competitive exam through Amendment number 6 of the Agrarian Services Act.
The Sixth Amendment to the Agrarian Service Act was issued by the Public Service Commission on the 29th of June 2021. Through the Sixth Amendment, agriculture graduates have been deprived of the opportunity to sit for the limited competitive examination of the Sri Lanka Agriculture Graduate Services. This government has stifled the right of many state workers by now.
අහිමි කළා තියෙනවා ආණ්ඩුව මේ වෙනකොට රාජ්‍ය සේවකයන්ගේ අයිතිවාසිකම් ගණනාවක් කප්පාදු කරමින් ඉන්නවා.
The highest number of vaccinations in a single day were administered yesterday. State Minister Channa Jayasumana said 337,445 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine were inoculated to the people in the country. 289,122 people received the first dose of the Sinopharm vaccine, while 32,385 people received the second dose. The State Minister further noted 15,202 people were vaccinated with the Sputnik vaccine. 700 doses of the Pfizer vaccine and 36 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine was provided to the people yesterday. We bring to a close this edition of Lunchtime News on TV1. For details of these stories and much more, simply log on to our website www.Newsfirst.lk. For the News First, the voice of the people, I'm Martin Satyanesan. You take care and stay safe.